Are we live streaming? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so everybody, welcome. Good morning, and thank you very much for this great turnout again for the Special Legislative Commission to study and examine the Civil Service Law, Personnel Administration Rules, Hiring Procedures and Bylaws for municipalities not subject to Civil Service Law, and State Police Hiring Practices. I give that full title the first time for our meeting because we are live streaming and we are recording so that this meeting is available for view by the public. As we have been doing, we're going to continue to hear from commissioners and from folks that are being brought in by commissioners to explain the points of view of the organizations that have appointed them to this commission, or the reason that they were appointed perhaps by the legislation itself. And so today we're going to be hearing from the various chiefs. Before we do that, let's take a roll call so that for public purposes, we know who's here. I'll just call out your name. I think it's the easiest way to do it, and it's what we've been doing. I'll call out your name. Just tell me if you're here. So we have Marcella King, Department of Corrections. Marcella. Michael Papani.
I'm present. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Tom Reddy. Tom Reddy. Okay. Sophia Hall.
Here, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. And also our staff are watching the screen, so if anyone shows up a little bit later, they'll mark you in. Neil Osborne.
Neil's here. Morning.
Thank you. Lawrence Calderon. Lawrence Calderon. Okay. We were informed that Chief Del Monte will not be here today, but I think he's arranged for his part of the presentation. James Vona. Chief Vona. Okay. Jeffrey Lopes.
Jeff's here. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Stephen Gabriel.
Present, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you. Good morning. Robert Quinnen.
Good morning. Present.
Thank you. Eric Estepenis.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. Richard Sweeney. Tom Lyons. Tom Lyons, Veteran Services. Secretary Poppy, or your designee. Okay, Jesse Flynn.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Breaker. I think I saw you.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Parr.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Representative Tyler. I think I saw you.
Present. Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. Is Representative Robinson here? Okay. Representative Higgins. I think I saw
I'm
you.
here. Good morning.
Good morning. I think Representative Haddad has a conflict, but she'll watch the video. Representative Whalen.
Present, accounted for, sir.
Thank you very much. Senator Moore, I saw you. I see you.
Yep.
Thank you. Senator Kennedy. Okay.
Senator Kennedy won't be able to be here, but I'm taking notes.
Yeah, and he sent you as his designee, right, for the meeting?
Yes.
Okay. And same with Senator Tar. Is Iraq here?
Yes, Representative Gordon. Good morning.
I see you. Good morning. Okay. Is Chair Brady here? I just don't see you. Okay. Let's just move on to the approval of the minutes. Again, I just want to make sure that we have time to get everything in. You should have received a copy of our minutes of our last meeting from Elizabeth Donovan. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the 8/6/21 meeting, say aye.
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 Thank you. Anyone opposed, say nay. Okay, so those minutes are approved. Let's see. Any word from Chair Brady? Al, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. The last I talked to him, he was trying to get on. So,
Okay. All right. Then let's do this. Let's really quick. Senator Moore, if you tell me where we are on your subcommittee for towns within civil service. I'm just going to jump down to that because I don't want to start the substantive presentations without the co-chair here.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Well, I think we've completed our having presentations. So now we just got to put together our list of summary of what we think needs to move forward. And we also have to go through further and I have to check that. I don't know if we've actually received the information from HID yet on our FOIA request. So I have to confirm that.
Okay. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your hard work.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Representative Higgins on the non-civil service towns.
Sure. So we solicited testimony from 35 communities that have left civil service. We've received written testimony from 8. We're going to be following up with the others who haven't written. I shared a Google Drive folder with the subcommittee members that has the written testimony, and Isabel added yesterday a summary with kind of the highlights of the key themes that we saw from consistent through the testimony. We are hoping to have 2 more meetings, but we're having some technical difficulty getting the live streaming to work on our Zoom account. So we're working with your staff on that.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for your hard work on that. That's great.
Rep. Gordon, can I quickly?
Yes.
And also just want to congratulate Representative Higgins on her recent nuptials.
Yes, thank you. I add to that, and we all do. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Haddad's not here. Representative Tyler, I know your subcommittee on diversity officer is meeting today at 3, right?
Yes, good morning, everyone. So we're meeting today, and we're going to hear from a retired police officer, and as it pertains to what holes when it comes to civil service he'd like to fill or like to see, just having had his entire career in the Boston Police Department and a successful career. And then we'll follow up with another meeting from someone within the administration to be able to talk to us financial when it comes to financial feasibility as to how we can actually create a role that also fills the holes that we're going to learn about today from the Boston Police Department. So things are going pretty well. We had a slow start, but I'm looking forward to a very bright future.
Okay, thank you very much, Representative. I think we're going to have to start with our first presentation, just going in order on the agenda. I think we're going to start with the police chief's presentation on how our civil service laws are viewed and affect our chiefs in policing. And Commissioner Astapenis is going to sort of lead that presentation. I know you've got some folks coming in with you, and I will just let you introduce them.
Great, thank you very much. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chair Gordon, Chair Brady, fellow commissioners, and all virtually in attendance during this morning's meeting. My name is Eric Astapenis, and I presently serve as the General Counsel for the Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association, while I serve as a commissioner as the designee for the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. This presentation and my appearance this morning are solely on behalf of the Mass Chiefs of Police Association and not EOPS. As a result, any of my comments made during this presentation are not attributable to EOPS, but only to the Mass Chiefs. Although fellow Commissioner Chief Del Monte and I have worked closely to develop this presentation, he is unfortunately unable to join us this morning as he is attending his father-in-law's funeral services when he passed away unexpectedly this past Sunday. However, I plan to have 5 police chiefs with me as invited guests who would share their individual perspectives in a short while. Unfortunately, I believe that Chief Fredrickson is currently tied up at the Litanovich trial, that a verdict has been announced. And Chief Vaska may also be tied up. We'll see if they were able to log on during the presentation. If not, I'll respectfully ask them to present written testimony at a later time. So that way we can hopefully get the benefit of their immense knowledge. Now, in developing this presentation, we decided to survey our membership in the hopes that the information gathered could assist in framing the important issues currently under consideration by our commission. And due to the time restraints, it's neither practical nor beneficial to rush through all of the responses during this presentation. Instead, afterwards, we'll be happy to provide the commission with a copy of these slides along with the question summary data for the questions mentioned in this presentation. In this way, commissioners will be able to see the responses, review them at their leisure, and determine their probative worth during our future discussions. I'll admit right up front that no survey is perfect, and difficulties have always arisen in number one, getting agencies to respond to the survey, and number two, getting agencies to actually complete the survey. So as a result of all the agencies this survey was sent to, we have received 145 responses to date. 79% of those responding agencies completed all of the questions relative to their agency. I will also note that in an attempt to make this as beneficial for the commission, all of the questions permitted an open-ended narrative response. This was the attempt to really permit agencies to provide as much information as possible to assist this commission with the very important charge before it. Nevertheless, open-ended responses are incredibly difficult to accurately and completely portray in a presentation such as this. As a result, what we've endeavored to do is to review and analyze the responses and try to provide some visual representations as to the general essence of the answers here. In developing the survey, we first inquired, well, whether the agency fell under civil service or not. At that point, the survey was bifurcated in the sense that civil service and non-civil service agencies received two separate sets of questions. Of the 145 responding agencies, 72 fall under civil service, while the remaining 73 do not. Now, for agencies falling under civil service, they were asked to identify the top 3 advantages that they experienced to being a civil service department. We were able to see that many responses included, either explicitly or directly, or implicitly or indirectly, the words or categories that appear in the word cloud you see on this slide. Although, for instance, the word testing may not have appeared exactly in a response could have included the words to that effect, like exam or examination. You'll notice that some words appear larger and more prominent than others. The size of the word directly correlates to the number of times that it or a similar word appears in various responses. You will see word clouds used on 2 additional occasions during this presentation. In the next question, civil service agencies were asked what level of change, if any, is needed to the existing civil service system. Of the 63 responding agencies, 0 indicated that no changes were needed, 13 indicated that some changes were needed, 28 indicated that serious changes were needed, and 22 indicated that the civil service system is irretrievably broken and beyond repair for the modern challenges faced by police departments. When civil service agencies were asked where they found the greatest procedural hurdles within the system, approximately 39% focused on hiring, approximately 24% focused on promotions, approximately 7% focused on appeals, approximately 19% focused on eligibility lists, and approximately 11% focused on discipline. In the final question posed to civil service agencies, they were asked how they identify the top 3 ways that civil service needs to be improved. And we have included but a few representative responses here. So one agency said that tests need to be more oriented towards the needs of the community, perhaps like the chief and deputy chief tests. The community should be allowed to have their own exams as long as they meet civil service requirements. Tests should be administered annually. Turnaround time for results and certifying lists should be 30 days. Better job at marketing and recruiting. One person listed number 1, eliminate 2N+1. It's too restrictive. Number 2, some mechanisms needed for hiring, promoting qualified people as opposed to the next on the list. And number 3, civil service needs to be in step with MPTC standards for academy entry. Passing a PAT is meaningless if they can't pass Cooper. Simplify steps, hiring lists, and processes need to be condensed, easier to understand, start to finish process for each position. And departments should be allowed to run their own tests, develop their own initial lists. Once the candidate is hired and their probation period has ended, they can then be accepted into the civil service system. Now, non-civil service agencies were then asked to identify the top 3 advantages that they experienced to being a non-civil service department. Again, due to the varying nature and quality of the answers provided, we have included another word cloud in an attempt to visually represent the essence of the answers here. Non-civil service agencies were then asked to identify the top 3 disadvantages that they have experienced to being a non-civil service department as well. Again, this word cloud is an attempt to try to visually represent the essence of the responses here. Now, when non-civil service agencies were asked whether their agency offers additional points or preference in the hiring and promotional process based upon an individual's veteran status, race, color, national origin, or language skills, approximately 63% indicated that they do not offer any additional points of preference. Approximately 27% indicated that they offer some form of preference for veterans. Approximately 7% indicated that they offer some form of preference for residents. And approximately 3% indicated that they offer some form of preference for those with additional language skills. Many of the agencies represented in the none category that you see on your screen indicated that they considered the candidate as a whole and did not provide candidates with any particular points or preference because of their status. And finally, we asked non-civil service agencies to describe their local procedures for hiring and promotions and the mechanism for how they are established. And the responses here varied greatly in quality and focus. Again, I can't emphasize the difficulty in providing a complete and accurate representation of all the responses to the commission here, and further emphasize the importance of reviewing the complete responses that will be submitted after this presentation. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to attempt to gather and present some data, information, insights, and perceptions, which may be useful in framing issues before this commission. But at this point, through you, Chairs Gordon and Chairs Brady, I would like to invite each of our guests to provide their own perspectives for this commission's consideration. And first off, I would like to introduce Chief Brian Keyes, Chief of the Chelsea Police Department and President of the Massachusetts Major City Chiefs of Police Association, to offer his perspective as a chief in a civil service police department. Chief?
Thanks, Eric. Good morning, everyone. That was very helpful, Eric. I appreciate that. So as Eric mentioned, my name is Brian Keyes, Police Chief in Chelsea. I've been with the Chelsea Police Department the past 34 years and has served as the police chief the past 14 years. Chelsea is a civil service department. And I want to kind of actually come in the brief time that I have, I guess, from 2 different directions. The first direction is from my perspective of being a part of a civil service agency for the past 34 years. So I'll be honest with you, my experience has been with civil service, the civil service unit, with the human resource division in general, has been very positive over the years. I saw in the word cloud that there was some negativity, I guess, expressed towards hiring. And I think, Eric, you indicated 39%. I guess that's the perspective that I'll bring up this morning, putting on my hat as the president of the Major City Chiefs. And I'm not sure if Roy Vaskin, I'll apologize in advance if he cannot get on. He was in transit coming from Dallas, representing the Major City Chiefs at a conference down in Dallas. But Roy and I are very, very unique in a way in terms of the city of Chelsea and the city of Lawrence. We're both, in terms of the diversity rates of our department, we're both very high. Roy is a minority police department. He's well over 50% in terms of the breakdown of his ranks. Chelsea is not far behind. We're about 48%. And some might ask, well, what are you doing that's working in terms of diversifying your department? We are lucky in that we do have residency preference. And it just is how it turns out, essentially. Most of the folks that sign up to take the exam are in fact residents, are in fact of diverse backgrounds. And it just works to our advantage. When I started back in 1987, we had 1 African-American officer and 1 Latino officer. Today, we have 111 total officers, of which close to 50 come from those various backgrounds. But switching to the major cities, some departments within the 40 major city departments that we have in Mass, comprised of those agencies that are 75 or more officers and represent a population of 40,000 or more, are struggling. Meaning they have demographics that are potentially 90% Caucasian or more. And they're looking at times, and I'll give you an example of Beverly PD. He's really looking to hire some diverse groups as far as to make up the ranks of his department. Unfortunately, when he requests, and this is kind of the frustration on that 39%, when he requests what's called a special certification from civil service, the only way that he would be allowed to hire from a different background, call it African-American or Latino folks, is that he would have to affirm that his agency has engaged in discriminatory hiring practices in the past. And essentially, this is something that's not done. There's a check and balance system with civil service, with their rules to prevent that from happening. Yet he would actually have to sign a document that he was in violation of state and federal law in order to get the folks he wanted to hire. That is certainly, and that's from a personnel administration rule. I forget the exact number. I can get a few, but what's called a PAR rule that would allow that to happen in order to get that certification. Obviously, that is a rule that is broken. That is something we're looking to change. I have to say that I have a letter, and if it's appropriate, I can submit it through Eric to the commission. I have a letter that I sent on behalf of the Major City Chiefs to Jeff McHugh, and Jeff is the chair of the Human Resources Officers from the HR division that oversees the Civil Service Unit. I sent that back in November of 2020. We did sit down with them virtually a couple times. This is before police reform passed. They definitely had an appetite to look back and kind of modify some rules that they've had in place for many years, this being one of them. Now that we have the formation of this special legislative commission, it would be great if we could do something, come up with an innovative strategic mechanism so that we were in a better position to better diversify our agencies. One quick possible solution in 20 seconds or less is basically to draw from two separate lists: the official civil, the traditional civil service list that we currently have today. And then if there's a demonstrated need by a particular agency for a separate list, we'll call it a diversity list, then we could draw from two separate lists based on need, based on proportionality of numbers that we're looking to get at, whether it be gender or race or color or what have you. So anyway, that's kind of the direction we're coming from. That's probably the significant layer of frustration that we have. But overall, I mean, I'm not here to bash civil service. Again, we've been working with civil service. It's worked out pretty well. But in terms of the hiring, yes, that is a problem. It is a priority for, I wouldn't just say the major cities. I would certainly say all cities and towns across the Commonwealth to be in a better position to have the police department be more reflective of the community that they serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief. I'm going through the list now, and unfortunately, I don't see either Chief Vask or Chief Frederickson present. So I will move forward to Chief William Brooks III of Norwood Police Department to offer his perspective as a chief in both a civil service and a non-civil service agency. Chief?
Thanks, Eric. Good morning to everyone. So, you know, I have, I guess, the advantage of having been through this twice. When I was the deputy chief in Wellesley in 2009, we took the Wellesley Police Department out of civil service. We were really one of the first to do that, followed by a succession of other departments that left civil service. When I left Wellesley and came to Norwood in 2012, I began the process here to remove the Norwood Police Department, and we came out in 2014. I also had a very good experience with the employees of civil service during the years when we were doing hiring within the civil service system. The employees are not the problem. I think that the system is fractured and broken, and it no longer met the needs we had in Wellesley or here in Norwood. You know, when you call for civil service list, as you know, you get, it's 2N+1. So if you try to hire 2 officers, they send you a list of 5, and you better hire the one on the top or be able to justify it in a bypass. And if you can't justify it, then you have a problem. I remember when I was in Wellesley and we called for a list, laid off officers from Worcester began to come in to sign up. They had been laid off, so they went to the top of the Wellesley Police Department list. We knew that they wouldn't stay, but they were out of work, and so they were put on the top of the list. When you're in civil service, you can't take a lateral transfer except from another civil service department, which limits you in bringing in people who are already experienced. When I came to Norwood, you know, we have a heavy Brazilian population, and I applied for a special certification list that Chief Kais talked about. I asked for Portuguese-speaking candidates. I found through research that Norwood Hospital had used Portuguese translators 1,100 times in the previous year, and I cited that as my justification, but civil service turned me down, that I could not have a bilingual list. Since we've come out of civil service, we completely changed the way we hire and the way we promote. The process we used was to sit down with the police unions to talk about what the hiring system would look like, what the promotion system would look like. We now give our own exam. We offer priority to Norwood residents and priority to people with military service. The way that works is that after I get the results of the exam, and I typically have them, by the way, within 3 days, we take all of the residents who are from Norwood who passed the exam, regardless of their score. And then we usually take non-veterans from Norwood that are at the mean or above, which is typically around an 85. And we have them in, and they get the first interview. So instead of looking at, 3 candidates for one position, we typically start with about 20 or so. And we begin our processing there. We can also look for some non-traditional candidates. So for instance, there was a shop owner in town not too long ago, and she and I got talking because I go out and walk the beats for, an hour every day and talk to shop owners and the public and so forth. And she and I got talking, and her shop wasn't doing very well. She also mentioned that she had a bachelor's degree in psychology, but had never really used it. And we talked about police careers. I bumped into her not too long ago. Our exam was coming up in September 25th. And she mentioned to me that she was going to come in and take the police exam. Under civil service, I wouldn't be able to hire her because we always had residence preference, and she doesn't live in Norwood, but she has strong ties to the community through the shop that she owned in the center of town. So I can look at her. I've taken lateral transfers from other states because our hiring policy says that we can take lateral transfers who have 2 years of experience in any police department in the US. So I have an officer who grew up in Norwood, went to Norwood High School, but went to college in Florida and was a cop there for 20 years. He wanted to come back home, be closer to his family as his parents were aging, and he came in and applied for a lateral transfer. That hire has been a home run. He's just been terrific. And I've brought in other transfers from other agencies. In an attempt to get more diverse, I hired an officer from UMass Amherst, UMass Boston, who had 2 years of experience, was already academy trained, was born in the Dominican Republic, and his first language was Spanish. And I was able to hire him. If I had been civil service, I would not have been able to hire him. I know there was some concerns in the veteran community about departments that leave civil service because of the veterans' preference. But the way I hire and the way that I've just explained, our percentage of veterans on the department has come up since we left civil service. I've also been able to hire more women since we left civil service. And although my diversity is not where I'd like it to be, it's been a little bit easier to navigate. So in all, it's been a positive experience having left civil service. We do a good job hiring. We can also be a little bit more agile and quicker because we process a pool of candidates and have candidates ready to go. And if someone comes in and gives their notice to me on a Friday afternoon that they'll be retiring, I can usually have a candidate before the doctor the following week. So we hit academy seats earlier, and we can fill our vacancies faster. Those are just my thoughts. I don't want to take up all your time, but having been through it twice, I can't say strongly enough how much I support a leaving of civil service. Again, not because of the personnel that work there, but because a system that I think over time, since 1884, when it was created, has just become a bureaucracy that actually makes hiring, efficient hiring, more difficult. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Brooks. And lastly, I would like to introduce Chief Edward A. Dunn of the Falmouth Police Department, also president of the Massachusetts Chiefs of Police Association, to offer his perspective as the president of our association.
Hey, good morning, and thank you, everybody. I'm not going to rehash a lot of the things that you've already heard because you've heard it, and I'm sure you're going to hear it again, that Chief Brooks and Chief Kaiser said. Falmouth is a community here on Cape Cod, as you're aware, or may not be aware, and we're a seasonal community. And Falmouth is a civil service department right now. And our biggest concern is, and biggest problem seem to be in the lengthy hiring process that we have to go through with civil service. And that's just not my department. There are 4 departments on Cape Cod that are civil service. It's Barnstable, Sandwich, Bourne, and Falmouth. Falmouth is the 2nd largest town on the Cape, and currently we are down 10 offices, and Barnstable is down 11. Part of that reason that we're so short, and we previously received a residential hiring list in September of 2019. That list was established, and we exhausted that list for Falmouth in March of 2020. So just 6 months, we exhausted the residential list. In August 13th of 2020, we asked for the statewide list, which we got, and we were only able to hire 3 officers off of that list, and then we exhausted it. So that was August 13th of 2020, and we have been in limbo waiting for the new list to come out, which I believe is supposed to come out sometime in September of 2021. So we've been in limbo for over a year. And as I said, we're a seasonal community here on Cape Cod. Falmouth goes from 32,000 to over 90,000. And we went into the summer season down 10 offices from our 65-person allotment, which causes all sorts of problems as far as providing proper public safety to our community, as well as officer safety, especially in an environment where training is scarce and there's a shortage in the interest of qualified candidates. The extremely slow civil service hiring process is crippling our ability to staff and provide proper public safety. And I hear this from a lot of the different departments here on the Cape, as well as across the Commonwealth. Especially when I look at my neighboring departments, such as the town of Mashpee or the town of Yarmouth, which are non-civil service, and I listen to their process where they give an exam on a weekend, and sometime the following week they have the results and they're already doing their backgrounds and going through the hiring process, which is important because of getting our applicants or getting our student officers into a police academy in a timely fashion. I can share with you right now, I'm not even sure when the list comes out in September, I'm going to be able to get officers into an academy, because currently right now the Plymouth Academy is full with a waiting list. The Randolph Academy is, I think as of last week, had 14 seats, so that's probably going to get full. So I will either have to send my officers to West Boylston, which is a couple of hours ride, or I'll miss the academy and won't get officers for the Falmouth Police Department on the street until 2023. So this is very concerning as far as the timeliness of all that. I will also share with the commission, because of these problems that we've had, Falmouth has been a civil service department since 1936. This coming November town meeting, the town manager and I are bringing an article to town meeting floor to remove the police department from civil service, because right now we are in a staffing crisis and can't wait any longer for changes to civil service. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your perspectives, Chief. Thank you very much again, Chairs Gordon and Brady and fellow commissioners. We would be happy to field any questions now should the time permit.
Thank you very much, Chair Estepenis, and thank you for your presentation and for the presentation of the folks who came with you. It's very valuable. Chair Brady, first I see you during that presentation. You came in. Would you like to share any of your remarks, and then we'll go on to questions?
No, Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions. I just had a conflicting schedule this morning, so I apologize. I just got on a few minutes ago. So,
okay. I just have a couple, and really focusing on one. I do appreciate very much not only the survey's results to the extent that they were results that were presented by Chair Estepenis, but your emphasis on the fact that when you have a survey where you have a 1/3 response rate, it could very well be that the 1/3 that responded were the ones most motivated for change or for something, and those contented folks might be the ones that might put that aside. And I appreciate that that's human nature, but I really appreciate that you made that clear. And we can take the results for what they're worth, and they are worth looking at. But Chief Kais, what you said specifically that I do have a question to follow, and because we still have a few minutes left in the slot for the police chiefs, is that you mentioned some reforms that we could see. You mentioned some rules that exist currently, like a statement that has to be made by a chief saying that you're not in compliance with essentially employment discrimination practices, really. And I've heard that from other chiefs, and other chiefs said the same thing. I'm not going to sign that. First of all, it's not true. And second of all, I wouldn't sign it because what I'm trying to do is create diversity, not admit to something that was at least potentially actionable. What, in the time that we have, what are some of the other rules, regulations, issues that you could identify that we could target so that we could see how we can refine and reform civil service rather than continue to see communities leave like Wellesley and Falmouth?
It's a great question. I will get the exact number. Perhaps Eric actually has the number. I know it's what they call a PA, the Personal Administration Rule. I suspect that when the rule first went into effect many, many decades ago, I'm sure there was a specific purpose for it, and I'm sure it made a lot of sense. But as we know, times change. And I think now that when I hear the frustration from some chiefs and around the Commonwealth, that, you know, yes, they want a special certification to be able to better diversify their departments, and they're met with this particular barrier. And they look at the document or they read the actual rule and they say, why would I sign that? And I mentioned earlier during the brief presentation that there are checks and balances that would prohibit, even if there was some police chief or some appointing authority that did exist, that was trying to be involved in some discriminatory hiring practices. The reality is that the current rules and the current structure and the current system within civil service would prevent that from happening. So to me, it was a no-brainer in terms of that rule. It should just be redacted completely. But kind of moving on with that, I mean, if there's additional rules, I'm not aware of them. I'm sure there may be some. But again, just hopefully this commission could come up with an innovative strategy to say, like, right now, if civil service is going to continue, what can we do to better diversify our departments? Right now, the system is definitely not working. It's only working in Chelsea. It's only working in Lawrence as two examples, because the residents are primarily, they come from diverse backgrounds, and those are the folks that are taking the exams. But in other communities, it definitely is not working. So I think, again, I could go on, but I won't. But as far as having a dual system of two separate lists, and if I come to the table and I came before the civil service unit and I explain that there's an emerging particular race or what have you in our community, and I want to be able to incorporate that particular demographic into the ranks of our department, therein lies the demonstrated need. The list that we have, just for example, just when it comes down, it does not reflect that particular demographic. With that demonstrated need, I would want to be able to pull from a statewide list. And again, for lack of a better term, we'll call it a diversity list with that demonstrated need, and maybe pull from both lists simultaneously. That's something that could be worked out in terms of the specific details. But that's something we proposed. That's something we started sitting at the table. They did seem receptive. I was happy when this particular commission was named, and all the folks that are on it, because I know obviously very intelligent people coming from a lot of different disciplines and different perspectives. But hopefully at the end of the day, I'm not sure when your report is due, but hopefully that will be part of it.
Thank you. And speaking for myself as one commission member, I mean, I think you have identified a significant problem. The latest census shows that every community in Massachusetts has this same need, looking for diverse candidates, because our entire statewide population is becoming more diverse. And ways that we can attain that is what we're looking at. And so suggestions that your testimony brings out is important to us. And I do appreciate that. I appreciate specifically what your testimony brought forward, and Commissioner Estepanis for bringing it and this other forward. And that's important and it's helpful. I'm going to open this up to questions.
Chair Gordon, if I may, before you do so, I believe the PAR that Chief Kais was referring to is PAR subparagraph 1, just for everyone's reference. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be taking a look at that. Okay, anyone else with any questions from the commission?
Chair Gordon, I had a quick question.
Sure.
I know during Falmouth Chief Dunn's presentation, he talked about exhausting his list within 6 months. I'm curious as to the definition of exhausting. Did he hire everyone? Did he evaluate some as not hireable? Did they go somewhere else? Or just curious about the definition of exhausting the list.
Chief, would you like to address that?
Hired the ones that were hireable. Hi, yeah, we went through the list. When I say exhausted the list, we did hire people off that list. And then through background of some of the other candidates. And then there were candidates who never came in and signed the list. So there were no more candidates on that residential list.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And I don't know if this has been talked about prior. I'm hearing from a lot of police officers across the board that because of the police reform, a lot of police officers, there's less people applying for jobs in the police departments, and some are leaving to either go to other states or just take their retirement or whatever. And I don't know if anybody on the commission today has any information regarding that could send to us.
I mean, Senator, I can make one brief statement. In terms of the specific reason why folks of all ranks have retired over the course of the past 12 months for a variety of reasons, I don't know specifically that anyone could say it was for the sole reason of police reform. I would honestly say that it's probably not. I would say that, certainly they had the years of service, they had the age. I would say it's probably just me as one person talking to a lot of different folks.
Right.
There was a lot of anti-police sentiment that definitely pushed some officers back, myself included, over the course of the past 12 months. And some folks decided that it was time for them to retire. But I don't think it's a direct response to police reform. And I'll just to mention this only because the vast majority of the language in the 139 pages of the legislation truly reflects what we've been doing as police departments across this Commonwealth for many, many years. So I don't think it's directly for that specific reason.
And you did bring up a good point. I know the atmosphere has been very volatile in the past 12 months, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. Not just in Massachusetts, but across the country. We hear, situations in the western part of the country, in Washington State, Seattle, for instance, and so forth. If anybody has any input, ideas, I don't need to have an answer today, but what we can do moving forward to try to make it better. Even with the police reform, I talked to a lot of retirees that there was a lot of misinformation out there that wasn't correct in regards to the reform, like defunding police. I don't think anybody in the legislature ever wanted to defund police. I know there were groups out there, protesters, it's, some crazies, and I excuse my language, but nut jobs. Like I went to a meeting in Easton, and there was a couple guys that looked like they just came from a Grateful Dead concert, wanted to defund police, but the town did not vote to do so. But that perception has been out there. We've actually worked to get more funding into police departments, especially in the budget this year and so forth. So anything we can do to or get the correct information out there, please don't hesitate to, get us the information, because and as you said, I know it's still not just a reform, but the volatility that's out there in the public and so forth, and it's very difficult. And I know some police departments have been doing a great job. I know that in Brockton years ago, when we had the neighborhood police, so we had the different groups that were going to the schools to talk to the kids, that worked greatly. But things change, it goes back and forth, getting the community policing up and running at some instances, and that goes back to having enough staff and so forth, which is a big issue. But any ideas that anyone has on the board today, please don't hesitate to, send us the information, because we want to try to get things moving in a positive manner moving forward,
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The clock tells us we're on to the fire chief's presentation, and that's Commissioner Vona. If you could.
Mr. Chair, I had a quick question of one of the chiefs before we moved on.
Okay. Chair, Commissioner Probani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This question is for Chief Brooks of Norwood. You articulated very well. Thank you for your presentation, your process that you established in Norwood to overcome some of the obstacles you saw. You mentioned that you needed Portuguese-speaking officers. Since coming out of civil service, how many Portuguese-speaking officers did you hire?
Unfortunately, we've only hired one, and I need more. The advantage of being out of civil service is that I can now look beyond Norwood's borders and hire from elsewhere. It's one of the questions we ask people when they take our exam is what their language fluency is.
Okay.
If I could just add, in the previous question about, what changes could be made. So, again, from being outside civil service, another model that the commission just might think about is that civil service is providing a service and that it's testing candidates. And then there's just a lot of rules and restrictions, which I spoke about. It would be great if HRD would give an entrance exam for police applicants every 2 years. Ask a number of questions. What other language do you speak? Do you have military service? Have you already attended a police academy? What towns have you lived in the last 10 years? Do you have college? We now require a 2-year college degree. Do you have college education? Do you have military service? So that I could go on and I could say, give me everybody in Norfolk County with a 2-year college degree who speaks Portuguese. And then I could see that. It would be a way for HRD to still offer a police entrance exam, but without the rules and restrictions to allow police chiefs to go in and select the kind of people they're looking for. Just my thought.
Chief, thank you. Just a follow-up question. You mentioned wanting the ability to reach out to candidates that you'd like to select specifically. Earlier you mentioned also having a shopkeeper in your town that you thought would be good in reaching beyond the system to hire that person. Civil service puts in place a number of protections against political appointments, patronage jobs, nepotism within the system. What in Norwood have you done to protect from those types of problems, from reoccurring stuff that civil service is already in place and provides for?
So, in our hiring policy, there are procedures to avoid nepotism and favoritism. The appointing authority is the general manager. He can only take into account candidates that have been sent up by the police department for appointment. So there are protections in place.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Flynn, you have your hand up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And thank you to the chiefs for their presentation. I just have 2 quick questions. The first one's from Mr. Estupettis. In terms of the survey, what standards were used or given to the respondents to establish a preference for veterans in the hiring of non-civil service communities?
Sure. So the question really was an open-ended question. So it was just asking them, generally speaking, if they have any preferences at all and to describe those. So within the open-ended responses that I'll be able to provide you, hopefully they will have described what that process looks like.
Great. Thank you very much. And to all 3 chiefs that presented, thank you. I just wanted to know, have any of you hired a relative to your department? And if so, what was the relationship?
Not in Falmouth.
I have not.
Yes, my son is currently in the police academy. So, what happened is that, I don't live in Norwood. The test that we are working on, or that we were working on, was about 2 years old. We typically test in the spring. Because of COVID, we had to push it to September. So last spring, when we were doing some hiring, we sat down with the list. We had gone through all of the Norwood residents. So my hiring coordinator, who was a lieutenant, had taken the list and had put together a list of people from contiguous communities who had scored, I believe she drew the line at 90 and above. And when we sat down with that list in the conference room to go through it, on the second page, I saw my son's name. Now, whether he's on a civil service list or he's on our own non-civil service list, we're of course bound by the rules of the Ethics Commission and ethical operations. So I put a stop to it. I drew everyone's attention to the fact that my son's name was on the list. I've been telling him all along he was never going to work here because we don't live in the town and we give residents preference. But again, because of COVID, we had already burned through all of our residents either by hiring them or rejecting them. So I did what I'm supposed to do. I called the Ethics Commission, had a conversation with them, wrote a letter to my appointing authority, withdrew myself from the process. The appointing authority appointed the deputy chief to oversee hiring. We did hire 3 officers. One of them was my son. It was to the point that I asked the hiring coordinator when they come in to sign off on their appointments, would you introduce me? Because I had not met the candidates. I wasn't in the building the day of the interviews. I wasn't around. I had never met them. So, I think that the ethical operation is not dependent on civil service. You're bound by the rules of the Ethics Commission. And so, yes, my son's in week 5 of the academy. We'll see how he does.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Flynn. Now let's move on to the fire chief's presentation and Commissioner Vona.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to speak about some of the reasons why communities have left civil service on the fire side. And it usually was a decision of the town after the police department had left, that a lot of the fire departments left after. Some of the collective bargaining agreements involved incentives or pay raises to leave civil service. And after the police departments had left, the fire departments were incentivized by the town to leave as well, because the town in general wanted to get out of the civil service system. And that happened in a number of communities. Wellesley, Westwood, I believe Marlborough was the same situation. Some of the issues that I see with fire departments hiring, myself, Shrewsbury, we have a hard time diversifying our fire department to reflect the community. We have about a 20% Asian Indian community. This past list of hiring, I was fortunate to be able to hire 3 diverse candidates, all Hispanic backgrounds, which is not necessarily all that reflective of our community. But I had 0 applications from the Indian Asian community. And I only had 1 female on my list out of 19 names, and that person never signed the list either. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is I'm a medium-sized community, close to 40,000 people. And I think we were lucky to get diversity candidates through civil service, but it's not really reflective of what is in our community as far as, the Asian Indian community. And I have a lot of reasons why that. A lot of the folks that live in this town are engineers and business owners and work in hospitals, and a lot of their children who grew up with my children are following their parents' career paths as well. So I think personally, I have to look at different ways to advertise and different ways to reach out to these communities, but these groups, but it comes down to a lot of the folks don't really want the jobs of police officers and firefighters in our community. So I just wanted to give that personal perspective. Speaking with some of the other smaller communities, like 25,000 and under, they have residential preference in their communities, and a lot of the communities have a very small minority, demographic to begin with. So they have a very difficult time hiring as well. Some feel that they would have a much better chance hiring if they were outside of civil service. A lot of the larger cities, as Chief Kais noted, have a more diverse population, and they have a higher percentage of people to hire. So I think civil service works very well in a lot of the bigger cities. But I think the smaller the town and the less diversified the town, it's almost impossible to try to draw from your community that, you know, to change your diversity if it's not that diverse to begin with. It's just a very difficult goal. I'll also say about 20% of my firefighters are veterans. That number has actually gone down to from about 10 years ago. We were hiring about 25%. And I think it's just because of the drawdown on the number of eligible military people as well. But what I'm finding from community to community is very different opinions and different results. That civil service works very well for some towns and not that well for other towns. So it comes down to a lot of just personal choices of what's working for the towns. My police department is also civil service. There are 150 names deep right now on that list to try to hire 9 positions, and they're struggling to fill those 9 positions that they have open right now. So I know the police department right now is considering looking into leaving civil service just because they can't hire people, especially in a timely fashion. So one of the other difficulties I see with some of the communities as far as hiring for diversity is some of the diversity component, people of diversity come from a lower socioeconomic background, and it's basically $250 for the written exam and $150 for the physical exam for a firefighter, just to take the test with no guarantee of even, getting an interview. So I think if we're really looking at diversity, I think the socioeconomically challenged folks almost have no opportunity if they have to choose between spending $400 to take the test versus maybe, pay their rent and put food on the table for their families. So those are some of the issues I see. I also think the fact that civil service is completely funded by just the people that take the test works against, the goals that we're trying to reach as well. Because if they only get their money from the test taking, and a lot of people can't afford to take the test, you're just really cutting your candidate pool, way down. So if there's a way for the state to fund civil service in a different way, I think that would help, fire and police. And that's all I have for an overview, basically, from fire. But it's definitely a mixed bag out there. Some communities, I've had good success with civil service, and I like, I think the city of Worcester has done very good with civil service. I'll let Michael speak to that if he'd like to. But I've had very good success with civil service, but it's not perfect. I still think there could be some ways that we could make it better.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Just one initial question, and it came up earlier today and also in other commission meetings, is that is marketing, is to the extent that, I don't know that we have a potential labor pool shortage, especially among communities that we're looking to bring into these civil service jobs in police and fire. I don't know whether there's an understanding as to the opportunity, which is to say, when the exams are coming up, I think that I'm wondering whether the communities are engaged in sufficient marketing, or whether there's an opportunity to get agencies to help them to get out the word. So from your experience, what's being done to tell potential firefighters or to the police side, potential police officers, hey, there's an exam coming up? And this is the opportunity, if you take the exam, this is the type of career that the benefits you receive.
I know I've heard of cadet programs. We also have I'm a combination department, which means I have some like volunteer part-time employees, but I'm mostly career. But we do try to recruit through the high schools people that are interested in becoming involved with firefighters. We've had several folks come through that were either going into the military or just looking at firefighting as a career that came on for their last semester of their senior year as interns with the department. One of them was recently hired onto our reserve list through civil service, and he is a call firefighter with us, but we've had a relationship with him since he was about 17 years old. So that helps us. It's kind of similar to like a cadet program, but we actually, once these kids turn 18, we give them an application to work with us part-time on the call department. Many civil service departments don't have that luxury, though. They either have career firefighters or no, you know, and nothing like to transition or to try to recruit people in.
And do you know, you may or may not, and there may be someone, our commissioners from ANF here, is there an opportunity for a reduced tuition, a reduced fee for the test upon a showing of need, or a waiver of that fee upon a showing of need?
There is, you have to apply and it takes time, and you have to meet certain specific requirements or specifications from civil service. So I'm not sure of all the details on it. I have had a conversation with Regina Caggiano on that, and she said there is a form you can fill out, but it doesn't guarantee that the person can qualify, basically, even if.
Yeah, it would seem to stifle someone if they've applied for it. They've got to know before they obviously have the opportunity to take that exam, or they won't have it at all. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Any Commissioner Rapani, I see your hand, but I just want to give Chair Brady a chance to ask a question if you have one, and I'll get right to you. Chair Brady, do you have any questions? You're still on mute. Chair Brady, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Senator, you're on mute. All right, tell you what, maybe Donna or Al. Senator, can you see us? You're on mute.
I'm sorry, a phone call came and I had to take that. Say that again, Mr. Chairman.
Just want to know if you had any questions for our.
I do, and I apologize. I got 5 things going at once here. In regards to the tests, I have heard it's been difficult for less fortunate families to be able to afford the test, so they got to make a decision like paying the bills or taking the test. Has there been any ideas in regards to a waiver for the test if they prove they can't have the, fiscal stability, or if someone else will take up the cost for the test, like the state or something like that?
Yes, there are waivers available, but there's a lot of rules that go into the waivers too. So not everyone who might be, on the lower socioeconomic end still can qualify to have it waived. And it's another rules and
right,
time consuming type of thing too, because it's not very much staff at civil service either.
Right. I also know, and this holds true with probably any municipality, unless word gets out there, most people find out through fellow employees from the municipality that they work for that, oh, there's a job opening or there's a test coming up. And I know some people don't know the other means to turn that there is even an exam coming up or whatever. And I know that my fellow chairman mentioned about marketing. I'm glad to say here that you mentioned you're going into the schools. Are you doing the same with the colleges as well?
Not so much. We don't have any colleges in Shrewsbury.
Mhm.
We have them in Worcester, but we have residential preference, so I can't bring in somebody that lives in Worcester who might be a great candidate. I can't bring them into Shrewsbury to work just because
Right.
of the residential preference.
Well, I know like Brockton has Massasoit Community College, but we don't just take students from Brockton. They're all over the South Shore and some from overseas as well. But they're in a close proximity. And of course, Brockton does still have a residency law. They did a contract negotiate a couple years ago. I believe it's after 7 years, they can live outside the district. But that's always been in the negotiations with the town officials or the city officials as well. But yeah, that was the main thing. I'm glad that I know it is difficult because if a person doesn't know the system, no matter who they are, they don't even know how to apply for waivers or whatever. It's very difficult. So.
Yeah, especially if there's a language barrier as well.
Correct. All right, thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Brady. Commissioner Papani?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a quick question for Chief Ono, but first, I believe in, my understanding is, and we could maybe check this through HRD, the standard for the waiver is for those who are receiving government assistance, that it's not a sliding scale based on your socioeconomic status. It's that you're receiving government assistance, is my understanding, is the level of qualification, but maybe we could confirm that through HRD.
Thank you.
And I had a quick question for Chief Ona. Thank you for your presentation. And you had mentioned your inability to reach across even your bordering municipality of Worcester that has perhaps a far greater candidate pool and far more diverse candidate pool. Do you think it would be beneficial for Shrewsbury instead of abandoning civil service to work within civil service if there were no residency requirements that allowed you to draw from qualified high scoring candidates in Worcester that may be happy to work in your municipality as well, right over Lake Winseg?
I certainly think it would help our pool of candidates. I found that when economic uncertainty, like COVID may have caused, I get more candidates, or if the economy is down, I get more candidates. It's a fairly affluent community. A lot of the kids go to college, so it's hard for me to recruit directly out of high school when all of these kids are going to different colleges all over the country. And I have to wait till they get back. Honestly, I've done a pretty fair job at recruiting kids that I used to coach in football and baseball, and friends of my own kids. But it's just, I'm very limited as to the number of kids that actually have an interest in public service. On years when the economy is doing really well, I've had as few as 6 or 7 candidates on my complete list of Shrewsbury residents. So that list can go very quickly if we have openings or hiring. So
being able to draw from Worcester, you think within that system would be pretty beneficial for Shrewsbury?
I don't think it would hurt. No, like I say, that's not my decision to make, but they do have residential preference that was put in play, and I think I would have to obviously negotiate that with my union as well. So
great. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Papani. Commissioner Flynn, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. Michael kind of covered what I wanted to talk about, which was just that it seems that civil service and a lot of these diversity issues isn't really the problem, but it's actually the local option to require either a residency requirement or a preference that really shrinks the applicant pool, and that it might be better for these municipalities to look at opening that up to the entire state and trying to draw a pool of candidates from more diverse communities. And it doesn't have to be just right next door, but in the entire state. And I also just wanted to say that cost of the test is prohibitive right now. It's, I think, the most expensive civil service test in the country. In this recent change to annual testing, we'll be incentivizing applicants to sign up for 2 tests, doubling the cost to get on the job and to get on the eligible list. So I think that we really need to look at how civil service is funded and why it's necessary for them to now open this up for 2 annual tests per 2-year list, which is just, really hurting the applicants, ability to keep costs down when they're trying to get gainful employment.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. It's certainly within the purview of this commission to look at those costs and to look at whether, and when we go to annual exams, which would seem to really solve an important problem on access to labor. It also we've got to look at what that would do to the budget, and there'll be more revenue coming in to civil service, and how does that affect the financial needs of civil service? And we'll be doing that. So it's a good point that you raise. Okay, I don't see any more hands coming up. I'm looking one last time. So our next presentation is going to address the state police, and we've got Commissioner Stephen Gabriel and State Police Colonel Christopher Mason to provide that presentation.
Good morning, everybody, fellow commissioners, chairs. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to present. We've put together some information regarding the state police and some information that was requested of us. I'm going to introduce Colonel Christopher Mason. He's going to go forward with the presentation. If you could please allow him to share his screen, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I think you can share, right?
Have you got that?
No. If Cody or Lizzie or can help.
I believe that everybody should have permissions to share their screen.
Yeah, I'm clicking on the share screen.
Thank you. We can see that.
All right. So can you see, you can see the Zoom? All right. Are we at the first slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. All right. My name is Chris Mason. I'm the Colonel of the Massachusetts State Police. Appreciate your time today. We developed this slide deck and we will provide you with the data and the slides that are behind it. So you'll have those as a resource that you can utilize. So we were asked to provide kind of a baseline of where the state police is at. So this is really our today's snapshot of the MSP workforce. You can see some of the numbers that are in there, and you can see the, I'm sorry, go back. You can see where we are as far as race and gender. So within the state police, we, with respect to gender, you can see that we are very skewed. We do not represent the population. We are 95% male with only 5% female. And contrast that with the 2020 census numbers. You can see that there's quite a delta there. And then also you can see, again, there's, for the MSP census, 87% white males or white, and then compare that to the census and you can see that, again, our numbers are off. So this has been a historical problem for the Massachusetts State Police and something that we're actively trying to address. So I think that sets kind of the baseline and gives you a sense of what the demographic issues are within the state police. And now I'll discuss some of the things that we're doing to address those. So we have really refocus our efforts on the MSP recruitment efforts for this 2021 civil service exam that just occurred. So prior to that, we completed an enhanced MSP website. We did a number of upgrades to that, tried to modernize the website, make it more user-friendly, make the user experience more seamless, and provide greater content on that website in hopes of attracting additional candidates and sparking interest in people that are considering a career with the Massachusetts State Police. Additionally, we developed a QR code, which we've disseminated out. All our membership has it. It's something that they can readily share. If you drill down into the QR code, and we've all done this now thanks to COVID, just like you would onto a menu. If you drill down into that QR code on your mobile phone, it'll pop you over to an MSP interest form. And there are a number of things that we collect in the MSP interest forms. That immediately goes over to our recruiting and diversity office, and there they establish contact with the person that has expressed an interest and start to engage in some dialogue with that person, start to assign a mentor, answer any questions that they might have, and really begin to see what their interests in the state police are, address any questions, and try to cultivate that interest in the state police. We've additionally increased our use of social media. So we might have a slide that touches on it later, but we're really trying to be more sophisticated in our marketing and utilizing our social media to share some of the community engagement that we have. Gives people a sense of what we're doing across the Commonwealth in the public safety arena, and really highlight some of the various facets of the MSP and that people that are looking for a career might be attracted to. Some of the content that I've expressed that we've shared over on the MSP website and in social media is the development of some recruitment videos. We have a number of those, and I'll have those later in the slide presentation, that represent that the MSP wants people from all walks of life, that we're looking for diverse backgrounds, that we have an interest in cultivating diversity within our department. And then a very important development that came to us as a result of police reform was finally the enabling legislation that provides us with the ability to stand up a cadet program. So we're very excited about this. We've built out the framework for the cadet program. We are in the final stages. We have the funding now for it. As I stated, we have the enabling legislation. So our next step will be, we still have a couple HR hurdles to get across. We're in the process now of doing a job task analysis and establishing what the entrance examination will look like. And then in parallel effort with that, we are standing up what the panel will be that will do the interviews and make the recommendations to the colonel for the hiring of the cadet program. And we view that as an opportunity really for us to develop a feeder program for our academy. And I'll discuss the cadet program more in detail as the slideshow progresses, but really think of the cadet program as kind of a prep school for the State Police Academy. And then, of course, the pandemic hamstrung us somewhat with our traditional outreach that we do at colleges, military units, with high schools. And we were able to shift and kind of adopt the new technologies such as this one, Zoom, and able to do a lot of virtual outreach this year. So those efforts went on. So here's those enhancements that I discussed on the MSP website. When you get there, there are a number of tiles. We run off of mass.gov. It's a very powerful engine. When you search through Google and you search anything MSP, it generally pushes you over to mass.gov. So it ranks up very high in the results and gets people directly to the information that they need. And you can see that one of the first tiles that's presented to any users or any visitors to the site is become a state trooper. Once you click on that, the goal was to remove any informational barriers that may exist to becoming a state trooper, answer many of the questions that are typically asked. We have an FAQ section. And so literally we have broken this down into a step-by-step kind of journey to becoming a state trooper, and really granulize the information that they need, and trying to set expectations for prospective candidates that would be going to the academy or considering a job on the MSP. We want them to have a realistic expectation of what that academy experience will be like, what their job experience will be like, what the opportunities are, so that they can make an informed decision about is this a career path for them. We want to do that because we invest a lot of time and effort into the training of a state trooper. We don't want that to go to waste. We don't want somebody that's trying it for an experience and then bows out. We want people that are committed, that are there for the right reasons, and that have the requisite drive to become a state trooper. So here's just some of the analytics. In March of 2021 this year, we went live with our revamped mass.gov website, and you can see thousands of views to that, to the various steps and to the various links that have been attached there. So again, we'll share all this with you and in the interest of time, I'll just move on. So one of the things that I did shortly after becoming the colonel was to kind of revamp and reconsider the way we're doing or running our what was formerly known as our Office of Diversity and Equal Opportunity. We reconstituted that and really challenged that process and the way we do things internally. And we developed a new unit, the Recruitment and Diversity Office within the MSP. It's currently comprised of 4 troopers and a unit commander for a total of 5. They come from a variety of diverse backgrounds. I would like for that number to be higher, but given staffing limitations currently, that's the number that we're at. The unit commander for that unit is also our department diversity officer and is responsible for the development of our affirmative action plan. So these troopers that are assigned to the Recruiting and Diversity Office focus on recruitment. They also serve as mentors, and then they also have kind of an ancillary role. They're heavily involved in our community engagement. Oftentimes we find that these community engagement opportunities present opportunities for recruiting. The notion of community engagement and recruiting are not mutually exclusive. Sometimes they don't jive. Sometimes, at a touch of truck, it might just be, less recruiting and more community engagement. They don't always go together, but sometimes there's overlap. So one of the other things we've done is created 6 community liaison officers. So within 6 of our geographic troops, there is assigned a liaison. They're responsible for focusing on community engagement, developing those opportunities to engage with the public, coffee with a cop, touch a truck, those type of engagements, and partner with local departments in their communities. And so we recognize that when we're out in the community, it's also an opportunity for us to recruit. And so we also tap them, and they also serve that and enhance our recruitment efforts. So there's quite a bit of collaboration between the RDO and the community liaisons. So I spoke about the MSP recruitment approach or strategy, and we have the RDO. We have that QR code in the interest form. Behind the interest form is a database that we can leverage. It allows us to maintain contact and send notifications to prospective candidates. And it's really that contact and let them know that we're interested in them. We recognize that they're interested in us, and maintain that contact so we don't lose them through the process. And the QR code also allows us to collect some metrics on the people that are showing an interest. And so we can see where the trends lie. We can see what age groups to start to target for directed marketing. And we found it to be very useful. Since we've developed that QR code, which we launched in March with the rollout of the enhanced mass.gov site, we've had 1,640 people that have gone to that QR code. We anticipate that will be greater. We're starting to brand that QR code onto brochures, various on the cruisers now. You can find the QR code on some of the cruisers. And so we're making it readily accessible to people. When a person fills out that code, they fill out the interest form, and that all goes right directly back to the MSP recruiters, and they can start to act on that information. So here's just some of the ideas or some of the metrics and data that we collect from that interest form. What social media sites are they utilizing? That gives us an idea where to focus our efforts. Geographically, where do they reside? Race, age, gender, all those things. Language is spoken. I know that a number of the presenters today have spoken about the value, the operational value in having people that have more than one language skill. So So I think, we all anecdotally know this. This is a snapshot of the three previous civil service police officer exams. So you can see from our perspective, from the MSP side, you can see in the yellow, people that sign up. You have people that will sign up for strictly, I'm showing an interest in a specific municipal department. You can have people sign up specifically, I'm only interested in the MSP, or I'm interested in being considered for both. The both is in the green, the blue represents MSP only, and the yellow in municipal. So that construct of being able to apply to both was applicable in 2021, 2017. It was not available as an option in 2013. So I'll kind of direct your attention, if you focus on the green, you can see that interest is waning in the MSP as a career option. So the applicant pool has certainly declined from 2013 to 2017, and then again in 2021. So we do have, we just gave, the sort of civil service just gave the 2021 exam. And so this is just a shot kind of giving you a breakdown, a demographic breakdown of what those applicants for the 2021 look like. And then we also provided you with a breakdown of what we saw back in 2013. It's a little bit apples to oranges. Those are the applicants in the 2021 box. These are the people that passed the test and were eligible. We do not know, I was not able to provide you with apples to apples because we're still waiting for the final scores pending appeals for the 2021 civil service examination. Some of the things that we have noted is that we've seen a jump in the female applicants, and we've seen a decrease in the number of white applicants in the 2021 applicant pool. In one of the previous commission meetings, there was a question put to me about MSP members that receive educational incentive or Quinn bill. And so we provided this slide just to provide you with an answer to that question. So the question was how many people on the MSP were currently receiving some form of an educational incentive. And when I say that, pre-2009 for us, Quinn bill. It's approximately 44% of our membership has received some sort of educational incentive. You can see the number above the box, above that box, the percentage box. The current number of people with that have no Quinn is 1189. So, and then I would also just point out in the lower right, the average number of years of MSP people that are receiving educational incentive is 24.4 years. So I think the last class that was eligible for Quinn is about 9 years away from their 25-year mark or maxing out their pension. So we will see an attrition in the next few years of the number of people that are receiving an educational incentive within the state police. There was also a question during our last meeting about the veteran breakdown. The specific question was, what's the percentage of veterans serving on the MSP? And so that down and dirty answer is 21% of our job. And then you see a little further breakdown, providing you with the number of veterans, male veterans versus female veterans, and then by race. And so you'll have all that information also to take a look at. The other question that followed the question on how many people do you have that are veterans is what does the diversity look like in that veteran pool that you're pulling from? So it's difficult to say. So we try to come up with somewhat of an answer. And when we asked the Mass National Guard, both the Army and Air side, if they could provide us with a breakdown of their diversity or their demographics within that. And so again, we provided you with a reminder of what the MSP race breakdown looks like there. It's displayed in the middle, and then above it, what the gender breakdown is, again, 95.5%. So what you can see is that that both the Air Guard and the Army Guard are more diverse than the MSP currently is. I also wanted to touch upon the 2018 Special Commission that was brought the Commission on Hiring and Promotional Practices of the Massachusetts State Police. So the legislature convened in this joint commission, made a number of recommendations to the Massachusetts State Police. And I just wanted to share with you kind of our progress on those recommendations. So the commission made a number of recommendations in areas of recruitment, hiring, retention. So the first was to institute an annual maintenance class. And so for the state police, this has been a longstanding reoccurring issue that many colonels have, myself included, have unsuccessfully attempted to address. We do not have a consistent funding source for a training class, although I can tell you with a relatively high degree of certainty what our attrition will be in any given year. I do not have a funding mechanism to backfill that on a yearly basis. So every year we come before the legislature, we ask for a class. Sometimes that request has been filled. This legislature has been great. They have been consistently filling those requests, but there have been periods of time where we've gone long periods of time. I think between 2006 and 2012, there was about a 5-year period where we did not have a single academy. So we're starting to feel the effects of that. That's a long time to go without hiring any new troopers. And then of course, when we don't hire any new troopers, we don't hire any females, we don't hire any minorities. And all of those people would have now, if we'd hired them back then, they'd be coming up on their, they'd be somewhere between 10 and 15 years on the job. Those are the people that are typically in positions, lieutenants, captains, and start to constitute what our command staff will look like for the future. And so that we have a gap there. So the notion of an annual maintenance class is one that provides us with a more predictable staffing for the state police, also allows us to plan for that academy. Currently, when the money's released for the academy, oftentimes we're struggling and racing to prepare for that academy. That's not a situation we like to be in. You never want to race a background check, and it has very real operational impacts. Many of the trainers come directly from the barracks, and so there's a lot of movement and a lot of planning and logistics that go into preparing for an academy. One of the other recommendations was to remove the existing tattoo policy. That has been done. We eliminated that policy that existed back in 2018, and we've instituted a new policy. It's and we have that in effect now. That's a nod towards just really the cultural change. And also what we were finding was a lot of veterans were being knocked out of the process. They were coming back with tattoos. And so we were losing some very high quality candidates as a result of the tattoo policy. And so we've opened that up. There was also a recommendation from the commission to provide credit for language skills. So that is something that will, really isn't a part of the current testing scheme or scoring scheme, something that we haven't advanced the ball on. But you've heard, I think, from the other chiefs already about the operational need for bilingual or multilingual officers to be out in the field. And so that's something that we at the state police also recognize, and we're always looking for troopers that have language skills. Another recommendation was to eliminate oral boards from the promotional process. This was under the assumption that, or what the commission found was that there was the potential for subjectivity to creep into the promotional process when scoring oral boards. And they thought that a more subjective process or a less subjective process, more objective process of just relying upon the written scores would enhance and guard against subjectivity that could work against people from underrepresented groups. So we followed that recommendation, and for the last captain's test, last lieutenant's test, and all the tests moving forward, the oral board is no longer a component of that. We openly advertise the availability of exam entrance fee waivers. I know that was mentioned earlier in the presentation. Again, we want to encourage applicants facing economic hardship to take that examination. And so we promote that whenever we can through the RDO or on our social media. Another recommendation was to compile exit interview data. We do that. We have comprehensive examinations with people that are leaving the process at any point. They could even make it to the academy and then leave during the academy. We're still having those exit interviews, all in an effort to try to define and identify what the barriers were. Why are people leaving? Should there be changes to our process moving forward? Are there opportunities for us to refine or improve the process? The Special Commission also made a recommendation that we enhance our student trooper program. COVID has really kind of reduced our opportunity to do that. So we focused, their second recommendation was to study the feasibility of a cadet program. And again, happy to report that process is well on its way. And we took that recommendation to heart and acted on it. We just recently, I'd share with you, we recently had, because we're talking about recruitment and selection in law enforcement, the Collins Center over at the UMass Boston Center for Public Management recently did an independent study at the behest of the state police and EOPS. They compared the state police to some of the peer state police agencies, among them Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. So they determined, they provided us with some data, and you can see the demographic of the peer states and the state police agencies. Some of the takeaways were that Massachusetts has one of the smallest recruiting teams among those peer groups. Again, something that we would like to advance and add to. But right now, with our staffing shortage being what it is, and with our attrition at a very high rate right now, we just don't have the luxury of being able to do that. They also highlighted the fact that our recruiting budget lags behind those of peer states. So there, I won't go too far down into this in the interest of time. I'll just hit some of the highlights, but they made a number of recommendations to the MSP for recruitment practices. I thought there was great value in this. I've shared this with the New England colonels, and we've had a number of discussions on this. So again, devoting additional resources to recruiting, something we aspire to do. Modernize recruiting technology, something we're actively working on. Again, I shared with you the increased attention we're paying to marketing, creating content that is interesting for our mass.gov side, deepening data analysis, again, collecting those metrics, leveraging technology, apps, the QR codes, all of those things in an effort to increase outreach. And then we're constantly striving to try and identify new ways to conduct this outreach. So one of the recommendations was to increase the use of faith-based groups. That's something that we've done. We've engaged with a partner, Faith in Blue, and we're currently doing that, working with faith-based groups and trying to increase our engagement there. And identify recruitment opportunities there. So again, even the Collins Center noted the need to establish a predictable recruiting schedule and academy schedule, and they've encouraged us to re-examine our process and what those requirements are. So again, peer state ideas are all over. This isn't an issue just for Massachusetts. It is an issue just for the state police or the municipal police. This is a nationwide issue. So everybody's really out there beating the bushes, trying new and innovative ideas. And so we're at whether it's IACP or whether I'm talking to my New England State Police counterparts, we're constantly sharing ideas saying, hey, this is what works. We tried this, it didn't work, it fell short. But you can see some of the ideas, at-home visits, regular contacts. That's something that we do here in MSP. Videos with a realistic view of what the academy life is, setting the expectations ahead. And another area that we're looking at is establishing really kind of a clear expectations for what the fitness standards are. If we know from our exit interviews at the academy and from the process, one of the drivers to to resignation for a cadet is lack of physical fitness. There just isn't a really good understanding of what they need, what the minimum standards are, and how to get there. So we're looking at ways to encourage volunteer runs, to have physical fitness programs posted online that are specific to getting ready for life at the State Police Academy, and make it, from at least from a physical standpoint, more attainable for them. So all this is just in an effort to attract more candidates, increase visibility of diversity. We included, and I'll highlight the box at the very bottom of the left of this slide. One of the most, the Collins Center told us this, that it was based in study. We kind of know it anecdotally, being in the profession, that the most common reason for an officer, both female, Black, or Hispanic, to become a police officer is to fulfill a childhood dream. And so we can talk about Quinn, we can talk about, public sentiment, all of those things. But oftentimes, and the candidate we're trying to reach out to is the one that has this is their dream. They view this public service as a calling. And those are the people that we're really trying to drive to the recruitment sites. We're really looking to increase our visibility out in the communities, particularly within the underrepresented communities, and increase our visibility and try to increase our draw within those communities to aid our diversity. So here's an example of some of those efforts, all recent ones. I think this week, the Unity Summer Basketball Tournament in Mattapan will wrap up. Coffee with a Cop we're holding across the Commonwealth. I was just recently with Chief Dunn down in Falmouth, where we had one there. In the lower right, you can see we're hosting the Suffolk County Sheriff's Intern Program. They're taking a tour of the Marine Unit in Boston. And then in the bottom slide with the kids wearing the campaign covers, that was a recent Touch a Truck event that we did in one of the communities in southeastern Mass. So the cadet program I spoke to, the cadet program provides the MSP with the opportunity to hire a diverse group of high quality candidates. And so the concept is that it's a civilian position. It will provide on-the-job training to Massachusetts residents from age 19 to 25 that aspire to a career within law enforcement. So it provides us with an opportunity to engage with these people early on, maybe even before they're eligible to take the civil service examination. They come in, they start to earn creditable time. It's a full-time position. They assist in a variety of administrative ways. We cycle them through various portions of our department, so they get a feel for what the department is about, what a career on the Massachusetts State Police could look like. And again, I kind of view it as a prep academy for the actual State Police Academy. So when these cadet graduates, upon the completion of their 2-year cadet program, they will only be required to take the civil service entrance examination and attain a passing score. Once they obtain a passing score of 70, then they will receive preference to go to the top of the list. We cap the academy, a third of the academy will be dedicated towards cadets, and they will have an opportunity to then enter the class. Presumably, we will have done our work on the front end. They will already understand much of what we expect of them at the academy. We will work with them while they're cadets to ensure that they can meet the minimum fitness standards, that they already have an understanding of what the academic requests will be. Presumably from working in the barracks, they'll already understand a lot of the concepts, the policy procedures, the very things that we'll be teaching them at Academy. So really a head start to becoming a Massachusetts State Trooper. And so we think that cadet program can be very successful. And we have a high degree of confidence in that thought process, because we see that Boston PD has successfully used it. We know of a number of other state police agencies that have successfully utilized the cadet program to really attract some very high quality candidates to their programs. Again, social media is really in this day and age, when we talk about marketing and getting the word out on what the departments are doing, I think every department now recognizes that this is the way young people communicate through social media. We're fortunate. Our MSP Facebook site is the #1 state police agency in the country for likes, and we use that and we leverage it quite a bit. And we believe that, we like to highlight our recruitment and community engagement on that social media site, on our Facebook site. And we think that drives those likes. And I would encourage you to when you have time, go there. I would specifically direct you to, if you see the various tiles here, you'll see one international arrival, and then what will you do? We're very proud of those. That's kind of a new groundbreaking area for us. Our media office, working with our recruitment and diversity officer, is taking real life troopers and sharing their stories in small little kind of vignettes or short stories that I think really share an important part of our job and really attract a different, speak to different qualities of troopers and what makes this job attractive. So I'll leave you kind of with three, takeaways. Again, we are actively seeking to identify and seek out diversity. The cadet program is one of the main focal points or pillars of that. And then, like all of the chiefs have already spoken, and Chief Kai's really hit the nail on the head. The ability to pull diverse candidates from our eligibility list is something that we're really looking for. As you may or may not know, when we receive the candidate list from civil service, we do rank hiring. So we offer #1 the job first, then #2, and we just keep going down the list. We don't have the ability to move around. We don't have separate lists. And so if we catch a list and the list is predominantly white males, then we end up hiring predominantly white males as we go down the list. And so we really are hiring what is on that list. The other thing, and a number of the chiefs have already spoken to this, was this concept of timeliness and having flexibility in testing. That's one of the things that we, the state police, have really fallen down on. We jump on the civil service test every 4 years. That is just way too long of a period of time. By the time we turn to on somebody that has taken the exam, we're sometimes catching up with candidates and saying, hey, remember us? You took the exam 3.5 years ago. And we'd like to talk to you now, 3.5 years later. Are you still interested? Well, everybody is competing for high quality candidates. Everybody's competing for diverse candidates. And oftentimes we're finding these people have moved on. They're not waiting because there's a lot of opportunities out there. And they're young, they're starting to get established in jobs. So they may have 2-3 years invested in another job and are not willing to walk away from that. So, we're looking and exploring, whether it's testing online, and we know a number of our peer agencies, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, are doing online testing. So literally they're doing it through third-party vendors. Predominantly, it's not an ad form, Pearson VUE, much like the EMTs or paramedics sit nationally. They utilize these testing agencies. You can test anywhere. So if you're in a military installation in Germany and you want to sit for this, and you're a son or daughter of the MSP and you want to sit for the state police examination, you can do it right there. And then you can get your results in a timely fashion. And then we have a rolling list and can go to that list when the hiring time comes. So I know I've whether that's something civil services is looking to explore or the commission is looking to recommend, that's certainly something that we would be willing to work with civil service. Civil service has been a great partner in the testing arena for us. And so we would love to explore those options, and I would encourage you to look at those. Again, it's a model that works in other state police agencies. They're finding great success with it. The integrity of the examinations has not been a question for them. It's been a very good model, and it has worked. And then finally, again, I touched on this already, a predictable funded academy cycle where we know and applicants know, importantly, that if I apply to the state police, I know there's going to be an examination next year. I know there'll be an academy next year. I know that there'll be academy the next year. Right now, people are taking the examinations and they don't know when the next academy class will be. And so I think that works against us. So that's kind of the perspective from the state police side. Again, those, the other chiefs have already spoken to it, but I think really critically challenging the process that we currently have and looking for performance improvement opportunities, addressing issues like timeliness, and being innovative with our testing methodology and delivery. Is really those are three areas that are worthy of focus, and that we'd be very happy to work with you. We think there's great benefit in there. So that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions, be happy to entertain them.
Thank you very much, Colonel. I appreciate it. I appreciate the completeness of the presentation, and maybe this is more of a comment than a question from me, but I appreciate the recruitment and the marketing explanation and efforts that you're going through addressing. We heard that from the other chiefs too, with respect to communicating to members of the community the opportunity to join state police force, and then these also the municipal forces that we've heard from earlier. I mean, it's just important because we need to be reaching out to people so that they're applying, in addition to making it easier once people are interested in applying, and looking at any barriers we have. Doing that, if you could release your share screen, and I'll see if we have any other hands raised. I don't think we do. So Chair Brady, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Colonel, I appreciate the presentation. It was very informative, and I appreciate the steps and the changes moving forward, especially with the diverse population we have in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The different, marketing tools in different languages and so forth. And we've made some great strides. Of course, the numbers are still there. We have a much smaller percentage of women or people from the diverse culture that we represent. But hopefully as we move forward, we'll be able to recruit more from the demographics that we represent as well. So it was very informative. I had, long before I got into the state legislature, I had done a lot of work in the city of Brockton on the city council. We had like a weed and seed group that you weed out the bad and you plant the seeds for the good. We had several people from the Middleborough barracks that used to host those meetings, and they've since moved on and retired. And we've had other Safe Neighborhood Initiative meetings and so forth. Sometimes, unfortunately, you get the same group of people that show up for these meetings, and we all got to do a better job trying to get the word out. But I appreciate all your marketing tools that you're utilizing now to get the word out to other potential recruiting methods, as well as moving forward with some new ideas. The only question I have on your languages, how many different languages? I saw a quick glimpse, but roughly, I know you, on one of the things, the screens, it had like maybe Asian and Hispanic. Do you break it down to Cape Verdean and Haitian beyond just Hispanic? Because I know, like, for instance, Brockton, the new immigrants in Brockton have a larger immigrant population of Cape Verdeans and Haitians, and it's always been a diverse community. Years ago, we had people from Italy and other parts of the world, but yet, like, some communities north of us may have a larger Asian population. So is there anything specific to that community where the diverse population lives?
Yeah, we try to do outreach to all those underrepresented communities. So within, if the question is what are the numbers on the state police for people that have those language skills, I can get those to you. We have a roster that we maintain at headquarters. So you can call up to headquarters at each troop headquarters and say, I have I'll use an example. So we had a horrific rollover a number of years ago. It was a Polish tour group on 24, I think it was 24-195, down in southeastern Mass in Troop D. And there were sadly a number of fatalities there. There was a significant language barrier. We were able to put out the call to the troop headquarters. Can we identify a trooper that we think this is Polish? We're not sure. Can we identify a trooper that speaks Polish? We were able to go to the roster, identify that trooper. He was able to come to the scene, and through that trooper's intervention, it was in fact Polish, and he was able to communicate with the survivors, was able to communicate with the embassy, was able to make the notifications to the families at home, was able to act as a liaison and work them through the whole process that went on for weeks of identifying at the funeral homes, assisting them with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, explaining to the families in Poland what had happened to their loved ones here in Massachusetts. So from an operational standpoint, it's extremely important to have those language skills and to be able to make those communications. And so within the job, we're very interested, and particularly, when we get into, the Creole dialects down in southeastern Mass, in the Brockton area, there are a number of varieties of languages that we have, interest in having officers that have those skills. So that language moving forward, as we become a more and more diverse population, having those language skills, that's a critical operational need that we have on the state police. And that I know that all the chiefs would share the same, the same outlook, that is a critical operational need, and something that we definitely, if we could provide some sort of points for a language skill, regardless of the language, and draw those people into the police service, that would be beneficial.
Well, I appreciate the work that you've done with the state police and as well as our local municipal chiefs across the board, because we do have a very diverse population in Massachusetts, and it continues to get more diverse depending on which country the families are coming from. Even in Afghanistan now, with families that may be coming into the country, they may be landing in Massachusetts, which we do not have a large population speaking that language. But even as us as elected officials, it helps us to learn a few at least common languages for the communication reasons with our population, to help out our constituents as well. So thank you for this presentation. It was very informative, and I appreciate all the steps that the state police have taken moving forward with some new initiatives and ideas.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't see any hands coming up. So with that, we'll just remind everybody that our next meeting is September 10th. We're going to have a presentation from the unions who are members of this commission, and that would include Commissioner Papani, Commissioner Reddy, Commissioner Calderon, and Commissioner King, speaking for the police, the fire, corrections, and the mass law enforcement policy group. After that, just a reminder to everybody, and that's at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then our next presentation is September 24th. And that would be Commissioners Osborne, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Lopes, Commissioner Sweeney. Okay, unless there's something else that is.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to reiterate to thank all the chiefs for their time today and their input, the fire chiefs, the local municipal police chiefs, as well as the state police as well. So thank you all for participating today and your information today as well.
Thank you. I joined in that. Thanks to everybody. Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 One opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Thank you. See you everybody next time. Thank you for attending. I appreciate it. We appreciate it.